Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Did you know I have a Patreon? You can go over there and support the channel. Now onto the stories. Case file number 876, written by Fall Asleep Forever 88. The leaf that proves we live in the Matrix. The most significant yet basic glitch I've ever experienced was a time when I was walking along the road. It was autumn, so leaves were falling. It was a fair distance from any trees though, but things felt still, and despite being in a large town, there wasn't any traffic, noise, or people. I remember it being super calm and was looking ahead, fully aware of things, rather than just daydreaming as I walked, or looking at a phone. From the beginning of noticing what happened to the end was about 20 seconds, and I was not intoxicated at all. This location is usually noisy and busy, but I was alone. I recall feeling like everything had slowed down. It was so quiet, and looking back, I think it was similar to when video games don't render the environment fast enough, and it takes a while to process textures in. So what happened was, I saw a large bunch of leaves suddenly begin to spin around like a vortex about 15 steps away, even though the weather was calm. It doesn't seem unrealistic that these things happen in a breeze. As I looked at this, which was literally the only thing around me that seemed to be occurring, the leaves were randomly starting to spiral around, all at different speeds, so it caught my attention. The leaves were going up about 5 or 6 feet in the air, and I noticed they seemed to be out of place. Why would there be about 50 leaves altogether? No stray ones here and there or spread out around the vicinity. Just one pile that suddenly began to spin around up ahead, which somehow ended up there even though the closest tree was 100 meters away. All of a sudden, as I walked closer and looked at this happening, one single brown leaf stopped. It was above the rest of them, which were in motion like a shoal of fish, and it just got stuck in midair in the middle of an empty road, broad daylight. It was like it had been paused, or that the codes that nature and the simulation used to process the weather had bugged out like a frozen computer. One single leaf totally motionless over 5 feet up in the air, as all the others moved around it. It didn't move for maybe 4 to 5 seconds. I looked and began to move towards it and spoke out loud something like, "What the hell?" As I got closer, all the other leaves just dropped down on the ground motionless. But that leaf didn't fall immediately. It dropped about 2 seconds after the rest as I stood staring bewildered at a single leaf there, just stuck in the air like a broken pixel on a TV screen. It's almost like it bugged out and it took a moment for it to be processed. I did laugh, but the image of that single leaf stuck right in the air still causes me confusion to this very day. Afterwards, around 30 seconds later, I noticed all of the sounds of cars and people playing music, shouting in the distance and sirens, the birds singing, and all the usual things returned. I feel like it all faded back in, but in such a way that it startled me, similar to when you turn the volume dial on a powerful sound system up high for a second, and it makes you jump. Things were just suddenly loud again. I wish I had thought to pick that leaf up. Maybe I should have walked faster and walked through this leaf vortex just to see what happened. But that's how it is, always in hindsight. It was only later that day I realized just how bizarre this situation was. I'll never be able to get my head around that, and it's just such a simple thing. All I can say is that it definitely wasn't normal, and I honestly wish you could all realize how real it felt. Maybe there's bugs in the codes for Mother Nature or the simulation, but I haven't a clue why an isolated pile of leaves would suddenly create a vortex that high without it being windy, and behave in such a way, as well as that sensation of the world around me fading out like that. Who knows? I still wonder about that one brown leaf from time to time. All I know is that I saw what I saw. Please speculate if you have any comments to make. Yours sincerely, a 34-year-old man from the rural East Midlands of England. Peace and love to all. Case notes for file 876, the leaf that proves we live in the Matrix. This does feel like the simulation physics are just not loading properly. They're being slowed down, there's a lag effect. And I think that's most notable by the single leaf that's just frozen in place. It's as if that specific object didn't have the physics applied to it. Sometimes you see that in games, where a car will just merge into the ground or float above it, and it doesn't render that, hey, that's not how gravity works. I'd guess if others were in the vicinity, they would have experienced the same thing. However, you combine it with the fact that the world seemed to be dead, almost like in those stories where people experience no one alive, no one around, no cars, no noise. It seems to be a merger of that. I think you may have been in a transition period where you are in a new universe now. These dead pockets, these dead servers, I'm guessing they're not given a lot of computational resources because you're in a transitionary phase, so that server is probably deleted as soon as you leave it. It doesn't really matter at that point. But I do think your memory is supposed to be wiped from these transitory servers. You're not supposed to remember. I wonder why so many people are remembering these experiences. Case file number 877, written by Psychological Use 346. The nap that I never woke from. I was always very open-minded. Believed that everything is possible, and tried to get a scientific answer to everything that happened in my life. But for this story, I don't have a definite answer yet, so let's cut to the chase. This happened almost 3 years ago. I live in Brazil, and I spent about 3 weeks in New York City for work. I arrived in New York City on January 28 with flu symptoms, but not all that sufficient to put me in bed. This was at a time when the virus was starting to get some engagement in the news, but nothing that could or would raise any global concerns, because it was only in China and little to no cases in other countries. I worked as expected, healthy, only sneezing on the week of January 28th, and I had the weekend free to explore New York City, as I already went to New York City other times, including a 40-day stay in December 2019. I did not do any sightseeing. I just rode the city bike around Central Park and had lunch on the 14th Street Whole Foods Market restaurant because I needed to stop by GameStop to buy a PS4 power cord. Yes, I brought my PS4 to a work trip. I felt extra tired when having lunch and decided to head to uptown and took a subway there. Once I got to my hotel room, I was a little feverish, took some Alka-Seltzer, and decided to take a nap. And that was it. Next thing I remember, I was standing, watching my soccer team play on the TV 3+ hours after I went for the nap. Now, without a fever or any of the flu symptoms. I don't remember waking up at all. I don't have any memory of leaving the bed, turning on the computer and reaching for the streaming platform. One moment I was laying in bed, a nap coming on. Then a split second later I'm standing, watching the soccer match without any of the symptoms, and 3 hours later. At first I was, okay, it was probably amnesia. I don't have a history of amnesia or memory loss at all though, and this story only becomes creepy because of how the world events turned out in the next months, until now. I mean, we were not caring about the virus at all. Nobody was giving a second thought to it, and the situation was under control according to the experts. Not only that, I believe everything became worse in all aspects. It's like I'm living my life before February 1st where the world was one thing, and after February 1st, another world completely different. I read a lot about shifting dimensions, and this is the closest I went as an explanation of what happened. Did I die from the flu? Case notes for file 877, the nap that I never woke from. So a couple points here. The first is that the virus that shall not be named was probably roaming around before it was officially stated to be here, so it's not inconceivable that you had that instead of just a flu. However, the other point is that people do die just from the flu. That's not unheard of at all. Thousands of people per year, just in the US. Typically older though, of course, but it does happen in even younger people. So is it possible you just had the flu and were visiting New York, went to take a nap, you didn't feel that bad, and then died? You know, actually, if you're sick and you don't have extreme symptoms, I mean, obviously most of the time means that you're just getting better, but sometimes it means that your body's immune system isn't working properly. The symptoms of being sick are actually just your body fighting the virus. You know, stuffy nose, clearing your sinuses, coughing up mucus, or a fever, which is the body trying to kill the virus. All these things are signs of fighting the virus. So if you feel a bit sick and then just immediately clear up, it's like your body's mechanism is not working for some reason. So it's possible that's what happened. You did actually die from just a flu, and then you're in a new universe. And really, it would be completely seamless if you die in your sleep. You literally just go to bed and wake up and now you're in a new place. That's it. I don't know if it's a worse place than where you came from, if things would have turned out the same way, I don't know. All I know is we gotta work to make the future better for all of us. And I do believe we can. You made it this far, you probably liked the video, give it a like, subscribe if you want more. See you tomorrow.